Welcome to our farm. Here's a little tour of our property and the transitions that it's gone through over the years and kind of why we've chose to do it this way. We'll start you off with a little up-close pictures of around the farm and go from there. The property was purchased back in 2006, and over that time we have slowly been turning grass areas into planting beds of native Ohio flowers and shrubs and trees. I joke that by the time we retire there's just going to be pathways to mow. Next will be broken out into sections, and I do apologize for the wind noise. So I've always been a big gardener. My mom was a gardener, her mom was a gardener, and when I bought this property, this was all just grass, and one of the neighbors came in with his tractor and broke up the ground for me, and then over the years we've added raised beds and then put these, had some extra wood from tearing out some stalls in one of the barns, and so we made some raised beds and then permanent pathways. It's always better if you never walk on where you're going to be growing food. And we grow organically. We don't want to use any chemicals in there. We just deal with the bugs, just, by trying to bring in the beneficial bugs, which can take care of most of the bad bugs. And sometimes you just deal with some bugs. It's not going to be the end of the world. We bring in flowers to try to attract the good bugs and my bees. And then over here we have some more flowers. This is a larger area. Normally this is completely all sunflowers. And then this year I decided to put in some tillage radishes, which will go down many feet and break up the soil, and then over winter that will basically just start to decompose and open up the ground. There's still some sunflowers, and then over here is a blueberry hut that we built. So we have our blueberry bushes in here, and it's all netted up so that way the birds don't get to eat more than we do. And there do have some sunflowers, but we use Price Farm Organics compost is basically the only thing we add to the beds every year. I don't till. I do a no-till gardening. It helps with the soil biology. You need the soil structure, and there's good fungus that grows underground, the mycelium and so forth. So you don't want to mess with all of that. Nature knows what it's doing. If you look at some of the best soil that you can have is in a forest, and that is just basically just the leaves fall, it's compost, trees die, that's compost, and no one's tilling it. So that's how we process our garden now. And really when you're just adding compost to it, and you're not opening up the ground, you don't have that many weeds. Really it's just our pathways are about the only thing that has weeds in it anymore. This greenhouse I built in 2020 or 2021 during COVID. We had a whole bunch of extra windows from replacing some of ours, and then a neighbor gave me all of their windows that they replaced theirs with, and then we had a extra storm door from replacing one of our storm doors, and had the vocational students come and build, or they actually built it on site at their school, and then took it apart and then brought it down here and put it together. It was kind of fun to watch them come on a school bus and put everything together. And then I installed the windows, and one of my neighbors helped me install the polycarbonate roof, and we insulated all of it, and then I hired a contractor to do the metal siding work. But that was one of my dreams. I've always wanted a greenhouse, and it is so much fun in the wintertime to go out there when it's sun shining and it's like 90 degrees out there and there's snow on the ground, or when it's raining, and I get an early start on my seed growing in there instead of having to do it in the basement under grow lights. And yeah, I'll put some photos of building it. There's a underground air heat exchange system that I put into it, which pulls the hot air from the ceiling and puts it underground, and then it comes out air conditioned for the summer. And then opposite in the wintertime, cold air goes through, the ground underneath is warmed up from the summer, and then comes out warmer. So I do put an electric heater in there that turns on after, if it drops below a certain temperature. But I'm basically, in the wintertime, I'm only growing very cold hardy plants like, lettuce and other greens and broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts, that kind of thing. So, but that is one of my very, very favorite projects that I put on this farm. And of course, we do create our own compost. You can see there's eggshells, there's coffee grinds, there's banana peels, you name it. If it can biodegrade, it gets put in there. And then the funny part is you have some leftovers, and this is what came up this year. So we have quite a few tomatoes starting to grow, and you can see some jalapeno peppers coming in there. And then here's a view of the greenhouse from the other side. That is a exhaust fan that when it gets too hot in there, that will also kick on and pull some cold air through the vent on the other side. So over the years, we've been trying to add as many native plants as possible. Any spot we can find. Here's back behind our one barn on the east side. We have some baby trees, which until the trees get large, we always have to put them in cages because the deer are so bad. A lot of these are past their prime. I will try to put in some photos if I have them of when everything was more in bloom. And then a giant pile of dirt, which from projects that we've had to make holes, or this is more of our weed compost as well. As you can see, the sunflowers come on there as well. We normally toss the sunflower stalks in there, so eventually the birds will eat most of the seeds, but they drop some, and then we end up with some flowers. We do have some grapevines. Unfortunately, the deer and raccoons normally end up with taking most of it. We haven't had a whole lot of great success with the grapes so far, but I'm trying. And then Oscar the cat wants to talk to you as well. And so here's one of our beds. This started out as a little section that the first year I planted some squash and stuff in, and then we eventually started planting the native flowers. things are past their prime right now, but there are definitely a lot of things still in bloom. So we tried to plant as many things as possible so there's always something in bloom. And then we added this bed over here because we have a big red bud back over here. And we wanted to protect that because the deer was hitting that as well. So then we planted this cherry tree, which has kind of gone crazy, and you know, we put in a lot of native plants in here as well. And I don't know if I can get a little closer on some of these to show you. There's still a lot in bloom. And but then there are a lot of weeds. The first few years, until things can start to really get in there and get seeded, you will have quite a few weeds. This is actually a hazelnut bush or tree, and there's a lot of cute little colorful native, some goldenrod. A lot of these, my other half knows the names of more than I do, but there's a lot of fun stuff for all the native bugs to have them snack on, get some pollen, get some nectar, and we enjoy the sights of it. So the backyard used to just be pure grass. There was no trees, nothing. And slowly, you know, we started adding some things from like National Arbor Day Foundation, you know, the little pencil stick trees. Or we would find a maple tree, you know, popping up in some other flower bed, and we'd pull it out and plant it. And some of those are from here. Then we started really getting into the native, you know, trees and shrubs and flowers, and we've made some purchases from different native plant sales down in the Columbus and Cincinnati area, where we purchased like this big guy here. He's that's a white swamp oak, and his nickname is Swampy. A lot of our trees we have nicknames for, but it's interesting. Some of this tree, those were all little baby potted Christmas trees that we put in the house, and then we would dig a hole before Christmas when you could still dig, and then just buy a little tiny tree for inside the house, and then come out and plant it. So we have, I think, six trees like that from Christmas. And but kind of what got us into this is my wife is a avid birder, and to have like bluebirds and chickadees and all these nesting birds, they need caterpillars to feed their young, and the caterpillars need a host plant, and these, you know, host plants are native plants that these insects have had, you know, thousands and thousands of years of relationships with. You know, you get a plant from, you know, Asia, and these insects don't know that plant, and they can't feed on that plant. So we have gone with, you know, native plants that will host a lot of these insects, which then the birds will come and take for their young, and it's amazing how many caterpillars birds need to feed their nesting babies. So that's kind of how we got into this. There's also books by Doug Tolomei that kind of pushed us into kind of some of this whole thing. So if you can go to the library and look up Doug Tolomei, Dr. Doug Tolomei, he's got a whole bunch of books. One of his latest books is about oaks and how they're the best trees. They're a host of hundreds and hundreds of different insects. The insects are like the lowest level. Without insects, our civilization wouldn't live. Everything starts with insects. So a lot of people don't like insects, but we need insects. And so spraying lawns to kill bugs and weeds is just not a good thing to do. I've always been interested in beekeeping, but I'm one of those that likes to know what I'm doing before I get into something. I don't want to just go into it blindly. And the issue with beekeeping classes is there wasn't really anything available quite around here. And, working a full-time job, trying to get to some place down in Columbus or Toledo or something was kind of hard. And then COVID hit, and then everything became, online. So there was a beekeeping association up in Maumee Valley that put on a beginner beekeeping class, and then the Ohio State Beekeepers Association also put on a beginner beekeeping internship, which took 6 months. You had one class every month, and it kind of went along the beekeeping journey of the year, of what things needed done when. So I started out with one hive, and then the following year that turned into 2 hives, and now, so those are 2 hives there. Now, 2 hives have now turned into 5 hives. I don't think it's going to keep doubling every year. I hope not. I don't think I can take care of that many, but we have definitely have a lot of honey now, and they're a very interesting social bug. I originally got into it because I was interested in the pollination for the garden, and then we decided, to learn more, and just learning how they interact inside the colony is just pretty amazing. And so the more I learned, the more I got interested, and just kind of went from there. And now I'm actually I'm on the board for the Ohio State Beekeepers Association now. I help them with their IT support, and learning a great deal from a lot of people that have been in beekeeping for many, many years. So I can help with what they need, and I can learn a great deal from any questions I have. Any of the beekeepers on the board will happily answer my questions. So it was a win-win.
Here's a little plug for our vet who takes care of Oscar and all of our pets here at the farm, Dr. Sally Chevalier at the Mohawk Animal Hospital.
So I found another swarm, and I do have, I'm trying to put my glove on. I do have a bottom box. I do not have a cover, so I'm gonna have to just use like a piece of insulation until I can get some. I'm gonna try to grab this swarm. So here they are. I'm just gonna shake the limb and pop them down. Let them move in. I'll just keep shaking that limb a couple times. Last year we decided to put in a wildlife pond. My main reason was for the bees. You can see them flying around there. They come down onto this gravel beach that we put in, and we'll grab water and take it back to the hive. And I've heard that a beehive can take in a gallon of water a day from the foragers that go and collect the water. So that was part of it. The other part we wanted was for dragonflies. So we built this where it's kind of shallow. Dragonflies like shallow ponds. So there's a couple different layers. There's the first layer that is about 8 inches deep. And there's another layer kind of down where this filter is, and that is around 12 to 16 inches deep. And then there is another layer, I don't know if you can see where these air bubble stones are, and that's about 3 feet deep. So we wanted an area that wouldn't freeze completely in the wintertime. We keep those air bubbles running. We've put some water plants in along the edge. Most of these we've tried to get all native to Ohio plants, and we still have some algae, but the more plants you can get in there that will pull the nutrients from the water, the less chance that the algae has to grow. And we do have some frogs that have made their home in here. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to see one right now to be able to record it. Got some green American frogs. We did have some toads lay some eggs in here earlier this year, so we had some tadpoles floating around. And then the dragonflies. So the dragonflies and the damselflies will come and lay their eggs on the grasses and stuff along the edge, and then they'll go down and they'll be in the water for sometimes a good year. So it's kind of fun. I'll put in some photos of what they look like underwater. Dragonflies actually only spend a short period of their life in the air, so most of their life is actually in the water. So this is, we don't use any chemicals in the water. We do put some dye in there because it's so shallow, to help with keep the algae from blooming as much, to keep the water cooler. And then we do add beneficial bacteria to help break down any decaying material that's in there, like, you know, leaves that blow in or such. So, but it's fun. We have a little bench that we put in, and so we can just sit out here. We did plant native plants all around here, and then there is an overflow, so over here, if the water gets too high from rain or what, it'll drain out of here, and then this is all kind of trenched in, and these flowers will take in that water. So, and then we do have all of this behind here was added in the last few years. So this all used to be just grass, and now it's native plants as well. So the bees have a lot to work on if that's something that they want to access, but a lot of this is for the native plants. A lot of these plants are hosts to certain caterpillars and moths and so forth. So we try to plant as much as we can to have host plants that will take on as many different critters as possible. So I've been researching solar power for probably a good year and a half, 2 years before we finally signed the paperwork. I'm in IT, so technology is kind of a thing for me. I love learning about new things, and this was kind of one of my wish list items. I turned 50 the year we put this in, so I joke that, you know, some people have their midlife crisis and buy a sports car, and I buy an energy system. So the practical side of me, you know, this is partly for partly as a financial investment. Energy is not going to go down in cost as far as I'm aware, and then as the environmental, you know, part as well. It's green energy. Since this was turned on, we have not had to pay any electric bill, even through winter time. We earn credits during the summer and spring and fall for producing more than we use in the house, and then the excess gets sold back to AEP, who creates a credit. And then in the wintertime, when the sun's not out very much, then if we do have to purchase power, then the credit takes care of it. So the firm we used was from Yellow Springs, called Village Solar, and Alex was the owner there, and he was amazing to work with. He answered every single question I had, and I had a lot, and I would do it over in a heartbeat. So if anyone's interested in you know, thinking about going solar, you know, feel free to contact me. I would say go for it. This is the only place really on the property that we had that wasn't going to have too much shade by trees. So due to the goat there, that's Daisy, we had to put a little fence in so Crazy Daisy wouldn't, you know, try to jump up on top of the panels or not. But normally I would try to keep the pasture mowed down a little bit more, but it's not really impeding the sunshine from hitting the panels, so we're just letting nature take its course and letting any caterpillars or whatnot grow on the plants. But yeah, that's our little power plant out here in our pasture. Another part of our property is our little orchard. We do have some apple trees. We had some peach trees, but they didn't do too well. The branches kept breaking, and so I just kind of gave up on those. But we have made apple cider from some of our apples, so they're starting to get big. And then we have some baby apple trees that we put in. It's going to be a while before they do anything. But then these are American plums. So they kind of look like cherries. But those are native plums. So they will make a dense cluster. But the birds will eat a lot of those. So you kind of see them in there, and they're actually good. I've come out and eaten them as well. They're just very tiny when you're used to, normal size plum. There's another Christmas tree of ours, and then this is we call it the tree farm. So this is a spot where we've planted a lot of trees. We've had to kind of enclose it off from the goat because the goat will eat everything. And but these are all native trees and shrubs in here that we're trying to get to grow. And eventually this will be our little wooded area. And so we used to have two big maples, this maple, and then there was one next to it, but after the power line company started, really chopping off because of the power lines, one came crashing down during a windstorm. So knowing that, we have the power lines up here, we can't really put anything that's going to be underneath it really tall. So what we did is we decided that we were going to build a native flower bed that goes all along the front of the house. And there are some trees and shrubs but they're they don't get very tall. We picked everything that would stay short. So it goes all the way along the road. Got some pretty good sized shrubs. That is a spice bush there. And we got some different plants. And you go across the driveway and there's even more. And this used to just be along the front, and then we extended it, so now it goes back. Milkweed, and right now all this right here is called boneset. And you got ironweed up at the top, that's the purple. There's some goldenrod in there. There's some of the ironweed. And yeah, this goes all the way by our garden. It just keeps coming around. House. We have some crab apples. And hey, if you're looking for a house to buy, you could be our neighbor. But we have lots of different, there's some cup plants, there's some tall coreopsis, there's a whole bunch of elderberries. some native grasses in there, some echinacea, and it's, some people might say, man, that's a lot of stuff, but the birds like it, we like it. It's kind of a little living fence along the side here, and gives us something to come out and look at and watch the birds. The birds will eat a lot of this stuff all winter long. You just keep the seed heads on there, and we'll come down and use all the seeds as food all winter. So